Hey everyone, Brad is back from vacation.
Hey, finally. It felt like a really long trip, but it was very short. But it felt like it was very long because we flew out at the end of a work day
Mm-hmm.
and then flew home. We had to leave the hotel at 4:30. Well, we had to get up at 4:30 a.m. yesterday
Jeez.
and then leave the hotel by like between 5:30 and 6 to get the car back and then check into the airport and all that good stuff, and then I came home and went right to work. So I'm tired.
Wait, how long is that flight? So are you
It's
flying
only
out of Reno?
yeah, so we fly out of Reno to Long Beach when we go and then Long Beach back. It's an hour and 25 minutes.
Okay,
I mean, it's not a long flight, but the times to get a nonstop flight, you only have 2 choices a day, and that's the flight that leaves at 9:30 in the morning, which they tell you you need to be at the airport at 7:30. So in order to be there at 7:30 in LA traffic, you gotta make sure you leave at 6:30 at the latest. So we
Yeah.
left at 6 to be safe, but you've gotta gas up the rental car and all that good stuff. I was so used to driving. We're so used to driving ourselves
Yeah.
that and I'm in control in that point. So that's one reason I'm not a huge fan of flying because I like to be in control of my schedule.
Right.
Um,
That makes sense.
but and then you can stop whenever you need to. You got to get some food. But the airport, man, I the night we got there, I was hungry because it was kind of close to a dinner time flight. So I think I got a salad with like maybe a quarter chicken on it. It was a tiny little chicken on there. It was friggin' $17. I was sitting I'm like, it's either that or I eat stuff that's really, really bad for me. So I paid for a $17 salad because I'm a moron, but whatever.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Hey,
We
it's good to be back.
we did take the week off last week just because
Yeah,
of schedule reasons, and I'm almost done with the Twins basketball season,
right.
which is taking up all of my
That's a
Tuesdays and Thursdays,
grind, huh?
every Tuesday and Thursday,
Wow.
and then I think so. They have their championship on Thursday, so tomorrow,
Mm.
later today for the people listening on the podcast, but they won their. I think it was a bet. It was the 4 teams got to play out. So they were one of the, I think they were 3 or 4. And so they won their first game. Now they play for the title, and they got their best player back who got hurt in the very first
Oh,
game of the
no.
season. And he's cleared to play, but you could tell he's still trying to get back. And he didn't have a great game, but just the fact that he was on the court, I think that the kids were just like, okay, we're
Oh, good.
confident now. Our guy is here, so that's fun. Junior high school basketball is fun.
Oh, yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, I think I told you that they're going to go to your alma mater of
Yes.
Cupertino High School next year.
That's pretty awesome, man. I I have some friends who still live in the Bay Area whose kids are now going to Cupertino High School as we all went to Cupertino High School and now their kids are going there. It's crazy. It's just I'm of that age now where and I have a kid who's graduating high school, so
Yeah.
that's yeah, but that's it. They're gonna love Cupertino High School is such a great area. Again, I graduated in 1991, so it was a little while ago. But the area was fun. It was a cool place to go to school, and there's so much to do there. And I can only imagine nowadays, like when they're driving and they can leave campus because we had an open campus, so at lunchtime we could leave when we would go to Valco Mall. There's probably some fun places that they can go hang out nowadays.
Valco's almost non-existent these days.
That's what I hear. I worked at Sports Stuff
There you
in
go.
Valco in 89, 90, something like that. So when this big craze of the starter jackets by that
Yeah.
company that they just put out, so everybody's going crazy for those giant starter jackets.
Those satin jackets.
Yeah, I should have worn it today for the show. I still have mine that I bought with my employee discount from Sports Stuff in 89 or 90. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's dirty. It's got like this little starter symbol on the sleeve is dirty and stuff. But I don't dare wash it. I don't want to wash it. I don't know what's gonna
Okay,
happen.
so here's what I was told. Now you tell me if this jives from when you graduated.
Okay.
I was told, and I have a little bit of of knowledge about this, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I was told Cupertino High School is all about academics and nothing about sports these days.
Oh, I have no idea, but at the time, it was about neither of those things when I went there. I mean, we had some pretty good basketball teams. I'll give you that. My freshman year, I think it was. No, my sophomore year. The seniors, that basketball team won CCS
Oh,
at the
wow.
time, and they were very good team. And then a couple years later, the younger brothers from that team were my friends, and they were on the basketball team, and they ended up we went pretty far in CCS, like my junior year and senior year. Now
Okay.
I didn't play; I was just in the crowd cheering them on because I played baseball, and we all hung out together. But and our football team was really bad those years. Swimming was good. Our water polo team was fantastic. Academics were there. I mean, they were good enough, but I can imagine the area that school is in, that academics are probably pretty high at Cupertino High School, because you do have a lot of tech people. You have a lot of, you've got a lot of parents who are there. And this is speaking volumes to you guys too, who are smart. They're smart people, savvy. They very good with academics, and now their kids are off there. And yeah, I mean, again, news to me, because when I was there, it was just kind of like, I was happy to be playing baseball, and maybe I did some schoolwork.
So yeah, I mean, I'm happy if it is academics. The thing that I like
Yeah.
about school these days, and tell me again if this is different, but there's just so many more things you can do club wise, elective
Mm,
wise. Like, they really have opened things up so that the kids can actually do some things that maybe you and I wouldn't even have thought of doing in school. So as electives,
absolutely.
obviously the regular stuff that is important, obviously that is still there. But so yeah, I think
Well,
having options is kind of cool.
I think with the clubs too, like around here in Reno, where both my daughters go. So my oldest is in PAC, which is the dance competition. That's where we were this weekend. They had a dance competition at Knott's Berry Farm. So we got to go to Disneyland for a couple days also, and that was a blast. San Dimas High School, down in San Diego, their dance team pretty much wiped the floor with everybody.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, their moves were succinct. They were right on time with everything. It was ridiculous. It was like watching a professional dance team. So my daughter's team had 3 dances. They came in first place, second place, and second place. Um, and the first place dance that they got, that San Dimas High School team was not in it, so so they were able to get first place. But the younger one is in Key Club, and that's where you go and just kind of volunteer in the community and everything else. But the cool thing about the high schools around here is, and I'm not sure how it is in every school, but you can jump in, and if you have an idea for a club and you have enough people who want to join that club, you can actually start a club. You can
Hmm.
just kind of go to the administration and say, "Hey, look, we want to do a donut club because we all really like cooking donuts." I mean, and that's it. And so it gets them together. They bring
Yeah.
donuts like once a week, and they talk about baking or whatever else it is, and which is great, because when I was in school, it was like I played baseball and I got in trouble. Those were like my 2 hobbies. So that's so to have something else, if there would have been a video game club, if there would have been a wiffle ball club or
Right.
something, I would have been probably stayed out of a little bit more trouble than I got into. But either way, I think
Well,
it's fantastic.
we're not only going to talk about our kids and school and stuff, because the Giants, ever since Brad went on vacation, there's been a lot of stuff to talk about for the
Jeez,
Giants. So we're going to talk
nonstop.
about all of that stuff here. One thing I wanted to mention is, if you are by chance watching on YouTube, give us a little like there on the channel. If you somehow find this show and you are not subscribed to our YouTube page, give that a little love as well. We're trying to get up to the big 300 subscribers. This YouTube thing is really, really hard, and we
Yeah.
can do as much content as we do, and you kind of have, there's a couple of things that we have posted where you're like, oh, that has gotten us some good visibility there. Anything Shohei Ohtani related kind of does it for us. But, we're trying to get to that 300 number. So if you are listening to this on podcast, the link to our YouTube page is in the show notes. And if you could just give us a like there, let's get to 300, man. Let's get to we're almost at episode, we're 12 episodes short of 200 on this show. Let's get to 300 on the overall channel. But okay, let's talk about some stuff here, because you and I have been talking about Matt Chapman, it seems like forever. And Farhan was trying to tell us that, we're good. We're ready to go. And lo and behold, you go on vacation and the Giants do sign one Matt Chapman to play third base for the team. And this deal is an interesting one because of the qualifying offer and the fact that the Giants are going to lose a second round pick, and they're going to lose a little bit of their budget for bonus money and such. Essentially, it's a 1-year deal for $20 million-ish. And this guy's going to opt out unless it's a Ross Stripling situation where he just has a terrible year, which, I think as long as he has a normal Matt Chapman year, he's probably opting out. So the Giants get their guy for 1 year. They lose a second round draft pick in this upcoming draft, and they lose some of that pool money. 20 million 1 year. Does this say that they have to kind of go all in and chase that wild card for the mere fact that they lose him after this year is over and they go through this whole dance all over again?
Yes and no. I mean, you could also look at it as a tryout year. I mean, because we talk about it all the time. When you make a deal for somebody halfway through the season in their final year of their contract, like a Juan Soto, like the Yankees have a chance now. They've got him for a full year. The Yankees have a chance to woo Juan Soto to becoming a Yankee for the next 10 years.
Yes.
So the Giants kind of have that shot at Matt Chapman to say, hey, after this season, I know you're going to opt out, but hey, look at the organization. Bob Melvin's going to be here for 4 more years after this year. Zadie's also going to be here for 4 more years. If you like what's going on, if you like what's being built, stick around and talk to Scott Boras and we'll come up with some numbers. But the fact that they couldn't do that early in free agency kind of tells you, well, maybe the numbers are just too high. And again, I totally understand that. But if you can get a third baseman for the next 3 or 4 years, and kind of move Schmidt around, and then Schmidt becomes your third baseman, because Schmidt's probably going to start, most likely going to start in AAA this season. Now that Chapman's here, unless JD Davis gets moved, and I would think, I was kind of doing a quick little roster breakdown myself today, and I think in order for in order for Schmidt to stick around, I think some other parts would have to be moved as well. Matos would also probably have to start in AAA. That would probably mean Fitzgerald would be on the roster, because Fitzgerald could also be an outfielder as well as an infielder. I mean, there's so many. The Giants have roster ability. I think I just made that word up. They've got a lot of movement they can do with this roster so far, which is great because they have some parts that they can move around. But yeah, 20 million for Matt Chapman for 1 year, most teams would do that deal. So
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so. So we got kind of the benefit of Chapman having lived and played in the Bay Area before, knowing what it's all about, having played for Bob Melvin. So a lot of that, I mean, he even said, multiple interviews, and again, how much of this is lip service, I don't know.
Right.
But that at the beginning, he knew it was just kind of destiny that he would be back, with Bob Melvin, and they have unfinished business. We did have a comment on Twitter too from Brian at SF Giants Brian. He said, "Can we please stop calling him BoMel?" And
I
I've
was going to
never
ask
called
you about that.
I've never called him that. I don't like that name at all. So Brian, yes, I'm going to call him Bob Melvin. So yes, it's
Okay,
fine.
so I put that in the title just
Okay.
because I was trying to get clicks, and it seems
Mhm.
like everybody calls him BoMel.
Well, and it fits. I mean, you only have so many characters, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about a lot of things.
So I was going to ask you this, but it sounds like you're kind of down on BoMel. Like you like
Yeah.
me, enjoy the name Bob Melvin. Like I don't think there are
Yes.
too many letters in that name for us to then shorten it to 5 letters, right?
Right, because if he became BoMel as the manager of the A's, I don't care because I'm not an A's fan. If he became BoMel as the manager of the Diamondbacks or the Mariners or the Padres, I don't care because I'm not fans of those teams. When I was a kid and Bob Melvin was on the team, he was Bob Melvin.
Yes.
So that's pretty much what we go with because but yeah, I mean the character shortening to get it on the screen too. You've got to we only have so many characters.
See, I
Because
would go the other
Elon
way.
wants to charge us.
I would go the other way. I'd go Bobby.
Bobby Melvin.
Like
Yeah.
okay, imagine if Bobby Bonilla was just Bob Bonilla. It's
Ooh,
not as
no,
cool.
you
Like
can't do
Bobby
that.
Bonilla, Bobby
No.
Bo. Like
Yeah.
that's an awesome name.
Yeah.
So I would have
Yeah,
gone the other way. Bobby Melvin, Bobby Mel.
Bobby, because you can't go Robert Melvin.
No,
That's
no,
not gonna work. No.
unless
it's
you go
Bob Melvin.
unless you go Robbie Melvin.
Yeah, and it was the two Bobs. You had Bob Melvin and Bob Brenly. That was just what it
exactly.
was. There was no
Exactly.
Bo. Nobody was Bo. So
No.
yeah.
So
We got you.
yeah. No, I we'll see how we'll see if that name sticks. I just see it so often now. It's almost like it's the de facto nickname for Bob Melvin. And to me, like you said, we go back to the mid '80s, and he was actually playing backup catcher for that team. You're like, yeah, it's Bob Melvin.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a comment here, and I was interested in your thoughts on this. So,
Mhm.
Haruka went the other side. He's like,
Okay.
1 year rental for all of this money. And I think he's also meaning because I put in the title, and we'll talk about this in a second about Blake Snell. Do we go
Right.
after Blake
That's
Snell?
if we got both, right?
Right. And so he says, it's bad enough to give up 1 pick and $500K in international money for a rental, but like everyone says, and he has a very mean nickname for Farhan. He calls him Farthan.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, can't draft, and what have we seen? What a mess. So, to kind of play into his comment, if Farhan can't draft, then what does he care about losing a 2nd round pick, right? So,
Right.
but I know Haruku's like kind of being joking around, but
Yeah.
but his nickname for Farthan made me think about something. So, Scott Boras, do you think the GMs who have to work with this guy to each other call him bore ass?
They have to.
They probably have to, right?
You kind of have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the natural, like it,
bore ass.
like the natural nick. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like I'm not going to call for collusion or anything, but it does seem like the owners are like, hey, we're not going to let this guy bully us around with this Boris 4. And Bellinger had to take a similar deal as Chapman, and Blake Snell's still out there. Who's his other guy? Montgomery? Is Montgomery a Boris guy?
Yeah, Jordan Montgomery.
They're both still out there. So all 4 of them may have to take these 1-year deals, and let's do it again in 2025. I find it so weird though when you have Cody Bellinger, who is a MVP candidate and the type of baseball player, if he could put the bat on the ball, who you would think would be great for any team out there. He can't get a deal. You have the reigning National League Cy Young winner who can't get a deal. And yeah, and then Montgomery, World Series champion. Out of the guys the Giants got, I would say Chapman was really the only one who had what people may call a disappointing season.
Right.
And so it's kind of weird. Not to say that there's collusion again, but it's just weird that the owners seemingly were just like, nope, we're not letting this dude. Like, get anything this offseason.
Well, that and possibly the perfect storm of the teams that could use their services just happen to be the teams that don't want to dole out 10-year deals. So that, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that plays a lot into it as well. Um, it's I think the day of the 10-year deals, just kind of being tossed around willy-nilly. That was last year, right? I mean, that was last year. Everybody got 10-year deals. Correa got a couple of 10-year deals before he had to end up finally settling back in Minnesota for 5 or 6 or 7. So when you look at it that way, I just don't think teams are willing to dole out those 10-year deals unless it's Yamamoto, who took a dump in spring training today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Or Shohei, like the cornerstone players for your team. I don't think anybody wants to, even though Bellinger's only 27.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to give him a 10-year deal, which kind of shocked me. Unless, again, I don't know what the numbers were. I mean, I know they were kicking around like 10 years, 250 million or something like that. But again, this suits him well, because if he has another season like last year, you're probably looking at a 10-year, $300 million deal for Bellinger next year.
Yeah.
Chapman doesn't have as much to gain as Bellinger does. I know Chapman had an offseason, but if Chapman gets injured, if something happens, he's kind of right back to square one. But again, if something happens that he does get injured, he does have that opt-in for next season, or for 2025. So God, we're already talking 2025. This is insane.
What it could mean is, if you consider the upper tier to be your Aaron Judge guys, your Ohtani guys, Yamamoto, who seems to be a little bit more of a wild card than a definite, but I think some of the fact that he is kind of new probably helped him. We didn't have to see him fail in the MLB at all. But maybe what the owners are doing is like, okay, no more Carlos Correa guys signing these long-term deals. Like, we need to kind of put the stop. It's Bryce, it's Juan Soto, also Strasburg, right? Strasburg's done,
right. Yeah.
And Washington's on the hook for all this money. But it's like, only like the upper tier guys we're going to extend, and we're going to throw all the money. And, if you're not there, then maybe you are taking a 5-year deal or less. And then even below that, maybe those shorten. So I think that's an interesting thing that you just said, because maybe it is sort of a defense mechanism against some of the contracts that we've seen doled out, where these teams are just on the hook. Because what they were saying is like, look, in 10 years, what is the salary, or not salary cap, what is the luxury tax number going to be? It may be like up and to the right, but who knows about the economics of the game? You see the RSN situation with some of these teams, and Amazon's pitching some money in to help cover the RSN business. Thankfully, the Giants and the A's, Bay Area Sports Network. But can you imagine Bay Area Sports Network pays the A's all of this money, and the product that the A's put out on the field? And look, they took some of our guys, they got Alex Wood, always up to no good, and Stripling, and like the fun, we'll pay attention to those guys just because they're ex-Giants. But still, it's like, man, you're an RSN, and you're like, okay, we got the rights to these teams, and then the A's are like, yeah, give us this money, because we're about to give you like the doggest crap product that you've ever seen.
Yeah, and we're out in a couple of years.
Yeah, and we're trying to get to Vegas, so deal with it. But I mean, the economics and the future of the economics of baseball is going to be very, very interesting. So I imagine some of that is part of the reason too of some of these deals, where they're kind of just like fighting back against these long-term expectations. Okay, let's talk about Blake Snell. Now, my thesis in the beginning, which you slightly disagreed with, which was 1-year deal for Matt Chapman, are the Giants having to go all in? Because if they don't, what you lose is, not only are you going to lose Matt Chapman next year, unless he agrees to sign, which Boris clients don't usually agree to extensions. They like to go test the market. Mm-hmm. Now, Chapman can say, hey, I just want to be here. Like, I want to be here for 5 more years or whatever. And then he is here. But in signing Chapman, you lose that draft pick, like we said. You lose that money, the $500K, and you also more than likely lose JD Davis. JD Davis is beat them actually in arbitration, like the first guy to beat the Giants in arbitration in a long time. So he is going to be gone. More than likely, they're probably going to trade him, unless Chapman gets hurt. Then they're probably going to wait until the very end of spring training, just for that fact, just to make sure. But you lose Chapman at the end of this year, you lose Davis, and so it is a Casey Schmidt game, and maybe Casey Schmidt being on this roster to learn from Matt Chapman, maybe not the entire year, but some of this year, that may be part of the plan. But it just seems like you're signing one guy for 1 year, and a very viable scenario is you're going to lose him next year, and you're going to have to trade his backup, who's JD Davis, who they both played on the same college baseball team. And JD Davis is like, dude, again, I have to move for you again.
Deja vu, man.
And so it just seems like, man, this is a little bit of a our cards are in on the table. The whole, we're in on this game. We're not folding here. And that would tell me that maybe we do need to bring in a Blake Snell, who they have been in a rendezvous scenario with, I'm sure. But then again, going back to Haruku's point, then you lose another pick, and then you lose some more bonus money and the international money. And it is a risk. But to me, I think part of this, and some of this is I've been reading. I told you I've been reading a lot about the late 70s, early 80s Giants teams. Not that different of a time frame in the late 70s and early 80s, in that the team was okay, had some ups, had some downs, but there was really nobody that captured the imagination of the fan base. And on the other side, you had the 49ers who were actually winning stuff, in 81, 82, all the way through the early 90s. They're winning. So the Giants are kind of like, they're the favorite because they got there first, but then the Niners come in and they're actually the dandy of the thing. And that's kind of what's happening right now. The Niners, the Warriors, they're definitely more of the favorite of the area than the Giants are right now. So there's just so many similarities. And I just wonder, do you bring in Blake? But then again, now I'm kind of talking myself out of it. He's more than likely going to come in on a 1-year deal with an opt-out too. So you're kind of chasing it for 1 year, and you're basically saying 2025, not exactly sure what's happening with you, but we're kind of putting our chips all in on the table here for 2024. So many like little risks and reward scenarios for this year based on what they're doing. And I'm still not sure what they're doing, actually.
Would Farhan and the Giants benefit more? And I'm wondering if this might be what's holding things up. And total speculation. Obviously, we have no insight on this. But as a video game GM, I'm looking at it and I'm saying maybe this is holding it up. That Farhan, is he pitching a 2-year deal with the 3rd-year player option? Because if you're guaranteed for 2 years, maybe that entices Matt Chapman to stick around his 2nd year, opt back in, depending, again, if they go to the playoffs this season. They get Snell, they go to the playoffs. Snell is 30. He'll be done at 32 with that type of a deal. Still enough time to grab himself another 3 or 4 year deal. Or do you think Boris is basically saying it's a 1 year with an opt-out or 8 years? That's it. There is no in between, which we could see Boris possibly doing. Because again, it doesn't really, I don't think it benefits Snell in any way to get a 2-year, unless you say, well, look, we can do a 1 year opt-in, or a 1 year with an opt-out after the first year. We'll do a 2 with an opt-out after the first year. Or we can go 2 years and we're going to bump up your AAV by like $4 million a year. Okay, I mean, then you get an extra 8 million in your first 2 seasons than you would get anywhere else. So I don't know. I mean, it's all total speculation. We don't have any idea, but I would be okay with that as a fan. I don't think I'm okay with Snell on a long-term deal. If the
Yeah.
Giants all of a sudden announce, "Hey, we got Snell for 6 years," I would not be happy personally. It's 1 year, 2 years max for me, only because we already know that our bullpen is going to be taxed. We already know that our starting pitching is going to be taxed, which we're going to talk about, with all of the injuries going on. So you don't really have, can you afford to have a guy for more than a year that's going to be a 5 and dive, who's going to lead the league in walks, but also lead the league in ERA and lead the league in ERA plus and lead the league in hits per 9, which he did last year to win the Cy Young. And then he'll have a great infield in Tyro and Chapman, and then possibly Nick Ahmed at short or Luciano at short, and Luciano's coming around defensively, just needs to come around offensively. And again, that's something we're going to discuss, but I don't know. As a Giants fan, I would not be happy with more than a 1-year deal for Blake Snell. I just don't know what the holdup is at this point. It's got to be on how much. I mean, he's a Cy Young, so we're talking about a precedent that is being said that we haven't seen before. I can't remember the last time a National League Cy Young Award winner was out on the free agent market, and we're talking about a 1-year deal with an opt out, because it's a new world. You know, this is basically the opt outs after 1 year have only been around for a few years. So this is not something going back like Lincecum. You know, his Cy Youngs came and then arbitration years happened.
Yep.
So that was a different story. But this is the first time I can remember a Cy Young award winner hitting the market, and now at the point where he's looking for a 1-year deal. And you've got 2 weeks left of spring training, so you've got to all of a sudden get up to speed as well.
I feel like Blake Snell just fits in the Bay Area. Like Blake Snell looks like he grew up in Stockton, or he grew up in Modesto, or he grew up in like one of these, like, he looks like a Diaz brother to me, like the Nick Diaz and
exactly.
Nick Diaz. Like I'm so for that. Like he's got an edge to him that makes me think like he kind of fits in this area. So I would like to see it, but I definitely feel all of the things that you just said. And if they do sign him, they are going to go over that first luxury tax number. Even if they can trade JD, they're still going to go over it. Now that they could possibly move other pieces, like if they were to be able to move Conforto, and I saw Grant Brisbee mention that, then they possibly could stay under that first tier. But Davis wants to know, are they just spending money because? I think that's an interesting question. It seems like their signings so far have been to fill pieces on the roster that that had a lot of holes last year, but also they need to, again, this is going back to the fan favorite of the area. They need to instill some hype and some celebration back into this area about baseball. They need to fill that stadium again. I think Jung-Hoo Lee, as long as he doesn't just play terribly, is going to be such a fan favorite. He's already got that energy. You see him on social media. He just looks like a dude that you're just like, this dude is just cool. Jordan Hicks throws 104 miles an hour. If he could even be good, I think if Jordan Hicks is just good, he's going to be a giant fan favorite in this area.
Oh, yeah.
Now you add Soler. If Soler hits 30 bombs, he may hit 240. Matt Chapman, I think the fans are going to give him the benefit of the doubt if he just has a Matt Chapman season, because they're going to understand that Logan Webb and Alex Cobb are just better for him being there. So all of these things sort of fit what they want to do, but at the same time, you got to bring the interest back in the team. And I'm all for that piece of it. Now, if you
Yeah.
just sort of to his point, to Davis's point, if it was just signing guys to sign guys and they didn't really fit, and you had all these weird spots in the roster, then yeah, like I definitely understand that point. But I think these pieces so far, they fit nicely. It doesn't mean they're going to win 95 games, by the way, because
Right.
but outside of the Dodgers and Philly, no one else is really spending a lot of money. So the Giants are kind of up there. I think some of these signings have been a little less flashy and less sexy than obviously an Ohtani and a Yamamoto, but they are spending money. So at least the fan base can say, look, they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is finally. And you know what? It was last year. It was Farhan as the PR guy was just bad last year, saying, oh, we got to improve speed and we got to improve defense. And they actually went backwards in both areas.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
let's not have Farhan be the PR guy, unless he's going to sign those guys. So this year he had to course correct, of course. All right, let's take a different thing here, because we actually have to say goodbye to somebody. And that person is Brandon Crawford.
Yeah. I mean, we've been saying goodbye to him since September or October, pretty much, but now we officially have to say goodbye to him.
So B. Craw signs the 2-year deal after the I don't think he was. I mean, he was near MVP, but he wasn't like in the top 3 of MVP. But he had an excellent year in 2021. Comes back for 2022 and 2023, and he's just old. He's not. You could tell the athleticism is somewhat leaving him. And we all thought, he was going to retire, but it's not like they did the farewell B Cross stuff that they've done that you could have thought that they would have done if they thought he was retiring. So I think they kind of knew, okay, we don't want to force this guy out. Maybe he's still undecided. And lo and behold, we were talking about why he doesn't fit on this team. You have the next guy. You don't want B Craw, the fan favorite, to, take reps from someone like Luciano. And he signs with St. Louis. I just thought about this. St. Louis has taken some of our old guys in the past. Will Clark, he didn't go directly from San Francisco to St. Louis, but he ended up on a Cardinals team, if you remember. There's another recent player that Jack Clark, not recent, but Jack Clark. Remember, Jack Clark got traded to the
both
Cardinals.
Clarks and Mike Matheny too, right? He ended up not only catching there, but he was a manager there as well.
So, nice little spot. I mean, it's a good organization. I don't know if they're going to, be in the hunt, but I think they come to San Francisco to end the season or something like that. That's interesting.
That's interesting. But as I've said on Twitter, I don't know if Brandon Crawford will be on the team at that point. And again, that's kind of the main things. Okay, so Farhan's job is to what? Win, to build a winning organization. It's been now 10 years since our last World Series championship. That's still a tall task, and you can't hang on to a guy who was on that championship last time they won it 10 years ago just to fill a roster spot, to be a mentor to the infielders, play, second base, shortstop, third base. They basically just got a mentor in Matt Chapman, and you've got Matt Williams. So you've got 2 guys that can help the infield. They've been around a long time. Matt Chapman has won Gold Gloves, Platinum Gloves. Matt Williams was a fantastic third baseman. I don't remember. Has Matt Williams won a Gold Glove?
I want to say 1993.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the infield won a Gold Glove that year.
That's right. He did. Yes. So he's also a Gold Glove. So you've got guys who can do that. And yes, Brandon Crawford would be great for that. But that 26th spot in the roster, you could have a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald, who is fast, who is young, who can play shortstop. He can play third base. He can play second base. He can play center field, which he did last year for the Giants at the end of the season. So all of these things are true with Tyler Fitzgerald, and you're getting younger and you're getting faster. I'm a Cancer, so I'm very nostalgic about things and sentimental about things. I don't have a problem with this move at all. It had to be done. He wasn't going, and that's the other thing too. He said, "Yo, I'll come back. I want a roster spot." And Farhan said, "Well, you can come back as a non-roster, or basically on a minor league deal, and try to win a spot like everybody else." Because the last 2 seasons were extremely rough for Brandon Crawford and for Giants fans to watch him go through that. Because that was the toughest part. I was one of the first people in denial during last season to say, no, he's going to bounce back. He's going to come around. He's Brandon Crawford. Remember 2 years ago, 2021, he had that fantastic season, got a 2-year deal. So I'm one of those ones who just kept hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. But by the end of the season, I was like, yeah, this has got to go. I mean, it's got to end. And I was hoping he would retire, just to kind of call it a day. But now it's going to be one of those on Twitter in 10 years, you're going to be, show me a picture of a random player who was on one team for 1 year, but nobody remembers. That's going to be Brandon Crawford in Cardinals uniform.
Yeah.
Just like Darryl Strawberry in a Giants uniform. I always like to throw that one out whenever I see that on Twitter. But yeah, so the Giants kind of filled that. They already knew, like, hey, we're probably bringing in Chapman. They've got Nick Ahmed, who's also 4 years younger and has 1 Gold Glove, so he can also be a mentor. And he's on a minor league deal, trying to win a spot, just like Farhan was hoping to do. Again, Farhan's job is to win ball games, and to win championships, and to build a winner, and to build up the minor league system. So, don't have a problem with the move, but again, hate to see it go. Hate to see things go this way. I'd like to have seen Brandon Crawford just walk away and retire, and then end up on the wall of fame next year. But we're not going to get that for a couple more years.
Yeah, I guess he's got a 5-year-old kid who he just wants to show that he's still a ball player. And
yeah,
I can as a father, I can see that drive. Right?
Absolutely,
we understand that drive. All right, before we get to the rest of this stuff, take a quick pause here. And again, if you are watching, if you can like the video that you are watching on YouTube, that is helpful for us. If you can subscribe, if you're not a subscriber, that is helpful for us. We appreciate you. Let's talk about the drink of choice today. I want to share mine first because mine is different.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you what I was going to do here. So I've talked about how my wife has just decided drinking does not work for her. She's sick of waking up with headaches, and it's just frustrating. So she's like, I'm done. I'm done drinking. And so I think she's like, she hasn't had a drink in like 2 months exactly. But
it's a long time.
She enjoys the mocktail. She enjoys the little spritzer stuff. She enjoys the hop water. And I like the hop water too. I think the hop water is really cool. It's really good and spicy, and it tastes, it's just water, but it gives you a little kick. So I was like, got this hop water. Let me see if I have the can. It is ginger limeade hop water. And I was like, I wonder if tequila would taste good with hop water.
There you go.
And so I tried it, and it's pretty good. But you know what would taste better in the hop water? I would probably have to get an unflavored hop water. But it's that Jameson IPA flavored whiskey that I drink. I think that would like be the ultimate. So the next time we do this show next week, I'm going to try the Jameson IPA whiskey with some unflavored hop water. But this is still good. It's just not as tangy as I thought it was going to be. But so hop water, and I put in a shot and a half of Terramana, though I didn't have the silver. Maybe if I had the silver, it would have been a little bit different. I had to put the gold in, and I put I put a little lime juice in there as well. It's still fine, but it's not. It's like not the thing that I thought it was going to taste like in my mind. But next week I will try the other drink that I was thinking of, and so we'll see if the IPA whiskey with the hop water adds a little bit of because if you like that beer taste, that's what you're going for.
And the silver's got a little more citrus to it, and another thing that might be good in there too is a little gin. because gin is
Mm,
kind of botanical. So that mixed with the hop water
that's
and the
interesting.
ginger. So
That's
that might go
interesting.
well. I don't know.
Yeah,
It may end up horribly wrong, so don't blame me.
we'll see. I don't think I have any gin. I have to check, but I may
Yeah,
have to
we
get
only
some
have
gin.
one bottle of it, and I don't touch it very often, but I'd like to try it more this summer because it is kind of a summery
Yeah.
botanical drink.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I put out there on Twitter when we started the show, I grabbed some Angel's Envy.
Mm.
I've been seeing this camera. Let me see if I can I think I can fix that real quick. Uh there we go.
There you go.
So little Angel's Envy. I've been wanting to try this. I like the cool wings on the back of the
Mhm.
bottle and everything. I got this from Sam's Club. I think it was like $33 there. If you have a Sam's Club, highly recommend. But it is finished in port wine barrels, which actually gives it a really nice finish. Kind of a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of that sweet finish. And I'm really enjoying it to the point where I think I'm going to try to keep this a bottle of this in my cabinet at all times because
Mm.
I like it that much. It used to be Buffalo Trace, and then for a while it was Old Forester, but now I think it's this because it's kind of got that unique little port wine barrel finish to it that is just so tasty. So yeah,
Interesting. Interesting.
enjoying it.
Very cool. Very cool.
Enjoying it so much that I might have to pour a little bit more.
All right. You brought the man's name up, Nick Ahmed. I have a friend named Nick Ahmed, but I think the proper pronunciation for him, I don't know if this is the proper pronunciation for the Giants shortstop. Nick Ahmed is my friend, the way my
I
friend
haven't heard
pronounces it.
that.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard that either.
Yeah, because
Um,
we used to watch him, 2014, 15, maybe somewhere around there, with the Reno Aces. He
mhm.
played one season with the Reno Aces, had a fantastic year. He was such a vacuum at shortstop at that time. We really enjoyed watching him and a fun guy. He was always, his interviews were fun, just real down to earth dude. And as soon as the Giants signed him, like, oh man, I think they're going to like him because I wanted to, if we didn't have Brandon Crawford, I thought Nick Ahmed was, a great pickup if the Giants could have traded for him from the Arizona Diamondbacks back in the day. But yeah, it worked out. Brandon Crawford was our guy. Greatest shortstop in Giants
Oh
history.
yeah, absolutely,
San
100%.
Francisco Giants history, at least. I don't go back as far as the 50s, so I don't really know. I mean, I go back that far in books, but just not in age.
So Marco Luciano, I think a lot of people thought he was going to win the shortstop job
Yeah.
in camp. The Giants invited Ahmed into spring training. He's still not on the roster. If he makes the team, which we think he's going to make the team, they will have to find some room for him on this roster and add him to the 40-man. It does seem like Luciano is going to start in AAA.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. But there's got to be a piece of Farhan who's just like, I need one of my guys to win. Not that he was a Farhan pick or a Farhan free agent signing. I don't think I think he was before Farhan.
It was before, yeah.
But just the idea that Farhan is this wizard at the farm system, and you would love to see some of these guys come up. Now we may get that from the pitching side. There's a
Yep.
lot of these guys who are
A lot.
almost ready from the pitching side. But I was kind of secretly hoping that Luciano was just going to like bash the hell out of the ball and not allow them to send him back down. But that is not what's happening. And it's unfortunate, but I think the best case scenario is for him to go have like 300 to 400 at bats in AAA. And then if he tears the cover for the baseball, then you bring him in and you figure out where you got to play him. And next year, if you don't have a Chapman, maybe it's Luciano at third base because he's just too big and he's grown and he's put on weight and he can't actually physically play shortstop anymore. So I'm all for Ahmed. I don't think Ahmed's going to hit much, and I think that is going to be a little bit of a problem. Is that he's not a hitter necessarily, but that left side of the infield, if you're Logan Webb, if you're Alex Cobb, and then you have these young guys coming up, That is going to be so helpful. And Tyro played a pretty darn good second base last year. Lamont Wade is probably an average to below average first baseman, but that infield defense has a chance to be really, really good. And that is going to be a plus for a team that has a lot of guys who throw ground balls. So I'm in it. I'm for it. But I do wonder, and you brought this up earlier, so let's bring this conversation back. Casey Schmidt, Tyler Fitzgerald, those look to be the guys who could be the backup shortstop. Fitzgerald brings speed. Fitzgerald can also play the outfield. Casey Schmidt's going to mostly be backup third baseman or backup shortstop, but to that extent, he can play both. And you know, maybe you have one guy as the backup to both positions, and then you can, you know, you have some of these older guys like Soler and Wilmer and Conforto who are only really one position guys, and the best position for two of those guys is DH. So that is an interesting dilemma, and maybe Casey Schmidt just makes it because he can play both positions, and you don't have to worry about it. So, what are your thoughts about shortstop and about the backup shortstop and the backup third base spot?
So Nick Ahmed is having a great spring with the bat. He did say he made some adjustments and things are going well. But again, it is spring training. He is facing not the top pitchers. And he's doing what he needs to do to try to make the team, which I totally understand. He's fighting for a spot. If he ends up making the team, I would be great with him starting at shortstop and Chapman at third base. I know every Giants pitcher would be great with that as well. Offensively, though, if you're trying to get protected in the lineup, you may not be that excited as you would be defensively. But again, if you can get out and you can make smart plays on the infield and you could be savvy on the infield, all around the infield, you're going to stop a lot of runs from being scored. So you don't have to score as many runs. I mean, it's basic math, right? It's kind of how it works in baseball. Pitching, defense, keep the other team to 0, 1, or 2 runs, and you score 3 and you win the ball game. So I would be fine with Luciano starting in AAA. I think he needs more seasoning. He's still young. Again, Farhan as our media guy, throwing it out there as our PR guy that Luciano is going to be our shortstop. He's going to start the season. He's it's his to lose. Well, he's kind of losing it at this point. And now you kind of have to backtrack and say, well, we got Nick Ahmed and we got Matt Chapman. So we have a very nice defensive left side of the infield. But yeah, I think he needs more time. Look at his numbers from last year. I mean, he hits the ball hard. But is he going to stick at shortstop? I don't know. And he's got to cut down on the strikeouts.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do that unless you go to AAA and just kind of bounce around a little bit more and fight hard. So it kind of is what it is at this point. That shortstop is going to be up for grabs for a while because you had Brandon Crawford there and now you're trying to figure out like who else can we have there for a really long time.
Yeah. And also more Katna also worried about Luciano's back, and we haven't heard a lot about it. It would be nice to see him go through a AAA season and not have those back injuries as well.
Right. Because and the other thing too, we talked about with the Eugene Emeralds last season, and I think even the season before, you start in there and you start in Richmond. Those are two places that are very cold in the spring versus starting the season in Sacramento.
Right.
Although you do have to travel here. They do open here in Reno. And I hate to tell you, but it dumped about 12 to 16 inches of snow at our house like a couple days ago when we were down in LA. So we still have very cold springs up here, but you're playing Sacramento, you're playing in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which again is cold, but still a little bit warmer temps and everything else and being north. So that could play a little bit into it. But yeah, we need to see him healthy because as we know, as older gentlemen, back pain does not go away. It
We
only
end up
gets
we end up
worse.
just doing Pilates and yoga exercises with our Apple Fitness
I
Plus.
I did 10 minutes of yoga today, and right afterwards, I did my physical therapy stretches, and I could still do some more. So,
Yeah. All right, last thing before we get out of here. The Giants rotation. We talked about Snell earlier. The starting rotation looks to be Logan Webb, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, and the Hot Licks. Who's the Hot Licks?
yeah, exactly.
Who's 4 and 5 in this rotation right now? Because they
Mason
got
Black, maybe one of them.
they got a lot of
right?
guys who are pulling up a little lame. We know Keaton Webb had some issues. Now we heard about Jelly. He wasn't ready for that jelly. Got hurt.
Yes.
So yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to patchwork this thing. Now they have the opportunity to do some patchwork stuff with the relievers because they did all of that last year. So this bullpen is like, well, we're used to this. We know how this works. But signing Blake Snell would take up one of those spots, and he would automatically be their number 2 starter. Would push Harrison to 3 and Hicks to 4, and then you'd only have to worry about a 5 guy. But right now they're going to have to worry about 4 and 5, and it would be great if Wisenhunt was ready, but he's probably not going to be ready, and it would be they don't want to push him too much. But yeah, so there's some guys even who are again non-roster invitee guys who might be part of the mix there. So the rotation is not set, and it does make me a little queasy though when you have Alex Cobb, when you have Robbie Ray coming back in the second half. It's kind of weird to me that they're just like, oh yeah, Robbie Ray, all-star break, he'll be back. It's like, is this guy coming back from Tommy John?
He's coming off a TJ, man. I'm with you too. I keep seeing that and I'm going, really? I mean, this is a guy coming off of Tommy John. And what do we expect from him the second half? I mean, we're expecting 4 inning starts, maybe.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
We're not looking at like 7, 8 innings. He's going to be going strong. He's going to be the number 2 to Logan Webb,
and then he's also going to be able to opt out if he wants.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, and I doubt he will because I don't see him having like, an all-world second half. Because again, we're talking maybe even late July, early August. I was hoping when we're there for the Giants games, those 2 games in July, that we might be able to see him, but that's kind of earliest July. So I don't know if that's going to happen. But we also have Spencer Howard is a non-roster invitee, and he has 4 major league starts. And Dalton Jeffries has 7 major league starts, all with the Oakland A's the last couple of seasons. So those
are like fake players that you just told me that only exist in MLB The Show because they couldn't get the license of like the real player.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Spencer Howard, the nice thing about him is he was a high prospect with the Phillies, but he also had Tommy John. So he's missed quite a bit of time, and they just didn't have it anymore. And they said, you know what, we can't really deal with it anymore. But he has a lot of starts in the minors. But those are guys who can eat innings at the beginning until you can get Cobb back, because Cobb might still be, I don't know, late April, early May. So he may miss the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. And when he comes back off the hip, I think that's much better than coming back off of a Tommy John.
Yeah.
So he should be a big boost. Then you're looking at 4 starters. Again, this is 4 starters. And you're also saying that, Kyle Harrison is pitching awesome. And Jordan Hicks has really grasped the starter role. So that's why everybody is screaming for Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, or both for that matter. So yeah, but also you're getting towards the end of camp. You're going to see guys who are out of options that are going to start getting waived.
Mm-hmm.
So when that starts happening, that's Farhan's kind of.
Are you talking about Joseph Bart?
I'm talking about Joey Bart. Joey Bart might be one of those guys. If we can't trade him in the next couple of weeks, He's not making the team as a Giants catcher because you've got Murphy and you've got Bailey and you've got Sable. And Sable's probably, I was doing a quick little roster look and I was just kind of breaking down everything. Sable's probably going to start in AAA also because he now has options. Because he was a Rule 5 pick last year, but he's stuck all season long. So now we can do what we want with him. And I think he understands that too. But again, that's going to be the first guy you call on if there's an injury. And I don't think Joey Bart's going to make it through waivers. I don't think he's going to pass through waivers and then accept an assignment to AAA. I think somebody's going to grab him at some point. So.
I would think so too. Yeah. If Matos and Luciano start the season in SAC, we got to find a way to get to SAC and see a game. We keep saying,
well, they open here. They open here, but I'm gone that week, man.
That's right.
Yeah, spring break. So, but we might be back. We might not do the whole spring break where we're going. It's down near Tahoe. Might just do a little bit of it. So,
all right, we'll be back next week. Hopefully back in our normal spot on Monday, and we'll see if anything else has happened. Hopefully, I'm going to try and catch a few innings here because I haven't seen anything yet, and they haven't really been on. Maybe once.
I believe the game tomorrow night on Thursday night, as you're listening to this, is going to be against the Dodgers, and I believe that is 6:05 game, and I think that might be televised. That might be our first televised game of the season. So,
there you go.
Yep.
All right, for Brad. Oh, by the way, I think Rod and I are going to be back in our first We Want Winners post Super Bowl. We did our sad Super Bowl recap, and then we took some weeks off, and we're going to be back to talk about the new defense coordinator, Brandon Staley being the assistant head coach, and the upcoming draft and all that stuff. So Rod and I will be back this weekend for We Want Winners. Bri and I we're back. Bri, we figured out a time, and so we did a show earlier this week. So we'll have all three shows in the feed this week, and hopefully we can keep some good momentum here. But this is still the most popular show. This is the show that kicked off the network. We get the most listens and the most downloads.
Because everybody loves the Giants. And everybody hates Farhan. Everybody except us. We don't. Everybody just, there's just so much Giants division right now. So
yes.
Do we need a Blake Snell to bring it all together? We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks.
All right. For Brad, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.